Another semiconductor fire could further impact product availability and announcements. Recent Japanese sales data shows Sony's dominating the domestic camera market, plus I've got photos of the new Sony 40 and 50mm f2.5 lenses. This and more after the intro. Hi, I'm Simon. Thanks for tuning in to The Ordinary Filmmaker. Subscribe to get notification of new videos like this one so you don't miss any news, rumors, gear reviews, or tutorials. And a big thanks to Atomos for sponsoring The Ordinary Filmmaker. I'm using the Ninja 5 external recorder for all my studio work as it really does save me a ton of time in post. Want to speed up your editing? Well, use my links down below and you can purchase your own Ninja. And now for the news. The semiconductor shortage that's affecting car makers, camera manufacturers, computers, and pretty much everything else that has electronics in them, which pretty much includes everything but lumber, well, it's about to get much worse. The demand during 2020 has outstripped supply. A fire at AKM Semiconductor didn't help matters much last year. Then on Friday, a fire at Chipmaker Renesas in Tokyo could have a considerable impact on semiconductor supplies around the world and could directly impact Apple as well as car producers. Now, chip producers around the world are working, well, around the clock to meet demand, but there's a finite supply available. Further restricting that supply will cause issues for everyone, not just car producers or even Apple. You see, when supply is restricted, so say my college professors, price invariably goes up. Just when Canon's catching up, the clouds roll back in. It's a challenging time planet-wide. Delays are everywhere. Everyone's affected. Now, I've talked a lot about cameras and lenses that are due out in 2021, and this could further push some of those products out into 2022. But as always, once I know more, you'll know more. Subscribe to get the latest on camera news and reviews. OM Digital's been aggressively communicating with the market and their faithful customers on their plans for 2021 and beyond, telling us that they're working on a slew of lenses, bodies, and a WOW camera. Now, they've said nothing about this WOW camera yet, other than it's coming later this year. Perhaps it's time to give us a development announcement. You see, while they've been working hard to reduce the flow of customers to other platforms in the wake of the merger with JIT, recent market data shows that OM Digital continues to lose domestic market share, sliding from a high of 28% in July to 11% in February. The charts data is collected from from the Japanese market and represent about 40% of domestic sales, so it's a pretty good indicator. OM Digital needs to release a WOW camera in Japan, or at least tease us with a development announcement to put the brakes on the current slide. But the data shows something else. Take a look at Canon and Sony. Sony sales have taken off in December while Canon sales have gone in the other direction. Now, I hate charts like this as they're limited in what they tell. What's causing the slide? Canon's had trouble with supplying the market since July. Could the short supply make Canon sales look worse than they are? Or are Canon customers jumping to Sony? Well, the data doesn't say. It's limited. But what do you think? How would you analyze this data? From my viewpoint, this chart shows us one thing and one thing only: the sales figures in Japan as expressed by share of the market and nothing else. Still, we can't ignore how well Sony's doing since December at the expense of Canon and OM Digital. But before we go behind the scenes, here's a look at the Sony FE 40 and 50mm f2.5 lenses. You might recall a couple of weeks back I sold my iMac Pro and I got about $3,000 US for it. So I put that money aside, and what I plan to use that money for is buy a new editing computer. And since Apple's shifting architecture away from Intel and over to their new high-performance M processors, I'm going to sit and wait to see what they come out with later this year. But in the meantime, I needed a new computer for my son for his schoolwork. There's a lot more working from home, well, not just for me, but studying from home as well. So the 11-inch screen that we had before just wasn't big enough. Well, I went to the store and I tried to buy one. And I called ahead of time, booked an appointment, and they said, yes, we do have one in stock. As soon as I got there, we looked at a few and we confirmed the one we wanted, and they said, no, sir, we do not have that configuration in stock. An hour wasted. So went back home, ordered online, and they said it would probably arrive sometime in the first week of April. So I've been monitoring, I've been taking a look at things online, and, well, according to the tracking information, which seems to be a bit more of a crystal ball kind of readout from UPS lately, Apple says it's going to arrive on the 29th, and initially they said, well, the first week of April, so that's definitely a plus. But over the last week, UPS has said it's going to arrive on March the 23rd, and then they completely removed the date, and now the date is back on March the 23rd. And in that week, here's what I've seen, that it's gone to an an economic protection zone in China. It's basically where they put all the stuff and get it ready for export. And then it got sent to another export zone. Then a few days later, it got sent to Hong Kong. Then a few days later, it got sent to Taiwan. Now, I happen to live in Canada, so I'm wondering, instead of keep flying it to these other different places, why don't they just fly it over here to Canada? Now, I flew to China once, and it was about 13 to 14 hours. There's no reason why this shouldn't be on my doorstep already. So, based on what I'm hearing, it could be here tomorrow, or it could be here on the 29th, or sometime in the first week of April, or any time in between. But I really hope we do get it soon, because my son had a headache on Friday, and that's code enough for the school to say you need a test. So he had a test, but he obviously can't go back to the school until the results are back. And he can't participate in homeschooling because, well, I sold the old computer to buy a new computer before we got this notification. So it looks like we're going to be doing some studying from the books. But yeah, you know, this whole discussion about the restriction of semiconductors, the AKM semiconductor fire, the huge demand for semiconductors in 2020, and now, of course, this other plant fire in Tokyo, is definitely having an impact. It's not just impacting Apple, it's impacting everybody. And if it's got an integrated circuit in it somewhere, there's a potential for delays. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with the rest of 2021? I remember publishing the story on the AKM semiconductor fire saying it's most likely going to push things, and it certainly affected Canon and others. And this further impacts demand. So one thing I do want to say, while this plant makes stuff mostly for Apple and car manufacturers, what these companies are going to start doing now is putting pressure on TSMC and others saying, look, can you help us out? And of course, there's only so much capacity by these companies. And with AKM going down, and now with this company going down, it just puts pressure on. So what can happen? Obviously, contracts have been signed, but where there aren't contracts, these companies are going to pay an awful lot more to get the products out the door, and they're competing with an awful lot of companies. So that also, unfortunately, puts pricing pressure on the products. We've seen, like, the Canon EOS R5 is priced a little higher than we'd like it to see, same with the Sony a7S III, and I think that trend is going to continue with lenses and bodies throughout the rest of 2021. Sure, we're going to get the cameras we want and the lenses that we want, but I also think we're going to get prices that are a little higher than we want. But that's it for now. Don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win 2 Angelbird 128GB AV Pro MK2 V90 UHS-2 SD cards, along with an Angelbird dual SD card reader. Or you could also win a Ulanzi LED light package with accent lights, underwater lights, and various flat panel lights that you can use for lighting your subject, or as a great starter chip for starting your own YouTube channel or for somebody you know. I'll be awarding these 2 prize bundles once the channel reaches 30,000 subscribers, and then I'll be awarding other prize bundles all the way up to 100,000 subscribers, at which point I'll be giving away a brand new Canon EOS R5 full-frame mirrorless camera to one lucky viewer. And on that bombshell, thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. We'll see you again soon.